that you're all familiar with Sara Imenu. So the word Sara is from Lashon Shrarut, in other words, rulership, or a Sar means like a minister or almost a kingly figure. Sara indicates also a female kingly ruling figure. So not only does Sara Imenu have a ruling state as the mother of the whole Jewish people, she also has a very important position in that, unfortunately, not all that long after man's creation, in the ideal world that Hashem had at the beginning, there was the Hayei Chasiduss. Well, there was a very central collapse in the whole spiritual status and hierarchy, and for that matter, not only spiritual but even physical, a complete collapse and descent of the whole world. So we find that certain great figures that were not all that long after Adam Harishon, what Chava was the one who actually began the sin, but then she gave it to Adam Harishon, and he also ate from the Hayei Chasiduss Tevara. So we find that people who were not all that long after them, and even in generations long after, that people tried to be metaken, how do you call it? They tried to put right the Hayei Chasiduss, and in some way to restore the world to the way it was meant to be prior to the collapse of the Hayei. And therefore we find that the Gemara tells us that by Matan Torah, at the moment of Matan Torah, all the impurity that had been put into mankind by the Nochas, how do you call him, the snake. Serpent, the original serpent, well, that was cleansed, and everybody became clean from the Hayei Chasiduss. And if it hadn't been for the Hayei Ego afterwards, that the Yidden recollapsed into a state of Chet, then the world would have remained, like the Gemara says, had it remained on that state, we wouldn't have needed most of the Torah Shabbat. It would have been enough to go ahead with the world in its perfect state, just with the Chamishi Chumsha Torah and Sefer Yeshua, because Sefer Yeshua tells about the moving into Eretz Yisrael. After that, everything wouldn't have needed all the halachas and Torah Shabbat Peh and the whole thing. So we find, and we're going to see, that Sara Imenu, she has a central part in that attempt or that effort to correct the Hayei Chasiduss. And she was actually successful to a very large extent. She achieved what other great people did not achieve. So ask yourself the question, what was so special about Sara Imenu? What was her, her patent, to use an expression? What was her inyan, meyuchad, that with that she was able to correct in a very large extent the whole Hayei Chasiduss. And that's partly what we're going to be dealing with in these shurim. However, the central point, what's important that you should know, is that because she was zeicher to emes simcha, she had, even though it's hard to find it in the actual simplicity of the psuchim, but we're going to learn how the Rabbi reveals that to the Rabbi Rashab, that because she had a tremendous quantity of simcha, or a massive aspect of simcha to her, she was able to correct all the... but we're going to see that to reach that type of simcha, you have to have a few prerequisites, what we might call conditions within yourself, and that's what we're going to be learning about. So I'm going to learn a few lines at the beginning of the Maimah, which introduces us. Oh, Shalom Aleichem. I have to make a shechiana. No, I haven't seen him for a few days. We're going to make an introduction to the Maimah, and because of its tremendous length, we're going to jump a small section of it, and we're going to come in at where I want to begin giving the main input. Perfect. And so it's written at the beginning of the parsha, Vayu Hayei Sara, Mea Shono, Ve'esrim Shono, Ve'sheva Shonim. It's written, the Rabbi just writes, V'chulu means just, etc. And then, having told us all the details of the years that Sara lived, it then says again, Shnei Hayei Sara. It's like a summing up at the end. It's already told us these are the days of Sara, and it tells how many, and then it says these are the years of Sara. So the Rabbi says, "V'tzorik lahovin, mahu oima shnei chayei Sara." What is the point of telling me again, shnei chayei Sara, like it's summing up at the end of the sentence? He's already said at the beginning, Aloikva nema vayu chayei Sara. Yeah, it's already written. These are the years of Sara. So he's already said an expression telling me that these are the years of Sara. Then he tells me what they are. And then he repeats again and doubles, and he says, Yeshnei chayei Sara. Ma keifo oid. What is he doubling up? What does he need to double and re-express it? Elamai, we have to assume that indicates another aspect of the days of Sara, not just the detailed numbers of how many years it was, and they also represent a lot of inyonim, but also there's some sort of summing up or something what we might call complete and utter, that he sums up again by saying, Shnei Chayei Sara. Ubezoya Dav Kuf Beis Omid Aleph. That's in the Zoya in the parsha where we are now. Hiksho, he asks a question. The Zoya asks a kasha. The word Hiksho means he asked a kasha. מפני מה בסורה נאמר ימי שני חיו שלא נאמר זה בשערי אמויד רק בסורה לבד. We don't find not by Rivka, not by Leah or Rachel, or for that matter by women in general, by the great women mentioned in the parshas of the Chumash, we don't find that it's written how long they lived. By the males, yeah, by Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, by Eliezer, by what's his name, I feel by Shmuel, and it's written how long they lived and what were their years. But by the mothers and by women in general, we don't find that. So he says, Mipnei ma. Besora nema yemei shnei chayosh shalei nema zeh, that is not written b'sharei imohis. Rak besora levad, only by Sara. Well, that indicates, like I said before, that she has a very central position. Sara, she's of tremendous significance in the whole development of the world in general, and therefore we need to know about her particularly. Yeah, V'oimashom Omid Beis, the Zoya continues over there on the other Omud, and it says like this: Also Chava the Alma is Davkes Bechivia. Chava who is Adam Rishon's wife, yeah, she came also in the Aramaic means come. She came to the world, yeah, v'zdabkes b'chivia. A chivia is a snake. A chivia means the snake, yeah, means the original snake, what they call it, nachas. So she came into the world, and unfortunately, she became davuk in the chivia, which means that there was a certain nearness of state created between the chivia and Sara, between the nocha. In other words, that to use the expression, she fell for the message of the nocha. Therefore, she became bound up with him. He had her in his hold. You follow? That's what happened to Chava. Also, Noach came along. Lialma, he came into the world. Ma'asi bei vayesht min hayayin vayishkor. We find that Noach drank wine and he became shikar. Yeah, vayishkor. Russian shikras. So the Zohar says over there that Noach, he was trying to correct what had happened with Chava. You follow? Mm-hmm. And he felt that the way to connect it was drinking wine. And we'll see later why did he... But he wasn't able to hold his ultimate balance with the wine. And what happened? The wine got the better of him. Like it's brought down in the Gemara in Masechta Sanhedrin, that you have to be tremendously careful about drinking in general. I mean, there's a huge amount of musa in Shas about that. And it says you have to be tremendously careful about drinking, and you have to be careful that you remain in control of the drink. Not the drink, unfortunately. But what happened with Noach, that he had a very good intention. He began what he felt was a tikkun. We'll see why. Why did he go for the wine? Because wine brings to simcha. And we're going to see that simcha is like the key of this whole drush. We're going to see. So he thought that if he will drink wine, he will be besimcha. You know? And he's right about that, but you have to have the right balance, you follow? And unfortunately, by him, he slipped, and the wine got the better of him, and he became a shikar, you follow? Mm-hmm. Therefore, he didn't make it. Also, Sara came into the world. The nocha, she went down. And where's it written she went down? She went with Avram to Mitzrayim. They went down to Mitzrayim. The Ramban tells us about that the Ramban is very upset with that. But the truth is that it's brought down in Chasiduss that Avram and Sara went into Mitzrayim because they had very profound kavanas that they wanted to elevate a whole series of natsutes already from Mitzrayim, and that made it possible for the Yidden afterwards to go to Mitzrayim and get out all the Netzotes of Avram. Sara began the whole thing. So therefore, Nochasas means she went down. She went down to Mitzrayim. Of a Solokos, of a Solokos, she came up. Yeah, she rose up from that state of descent. Yeah, Commando Oma, or Kedo Oma, like he says, Vayal Avram Mitzrayim, Hu ve'ishtoi. That Avram Avinu rose up from Mitzrayim, Hu ve'ishtoi. It's brought in Chasiduss that word, Hu ve'ishtoi, that's the ikar of that posse. That the ikar is to tell me that Sara also came up out of Mitzrayim. That Avram Avinu came up, Avram Avinu was Avram Avinu, yeah, and he was a massive koyak. So, it's not such a chiddush, not such a news, that he came up from Mitzrayim with all the netutes that he managed to bring. But the ichach is that Gam Ishtoi, that Sara Imanu, she also made it. yeah. Of she went down into Mitzrayim with Avraham Avinu, but she managed to come up together with him, and that was a tremendous tikkun, as we're going to see. With that, she made a tremendous tikkun, and later the Maimon is going to deal with how did she do that? What was the key point that she was able to go down into Mitzrayim and also come up. And we're going to see it's a very interesting key point. The Nakuda that she had is very, very fascinating. Anyway, we'll begin Kach, and because of that, that's the begin Kach. That's the Lashon Lazoya. Zochto lechayin Elohim. Oh, she was Zoiche that all of her life force afterwards became elevated. How do you call it? It wasn't Stama life force, but it was Chayin Elohim. In other words, it was like divine and powerful spiritual life force, Begalui, in her life. I could always live from the divine. Everything is there, and our Chayas is a Chayas Eloki. But not everybody feels that, and not everybody lives with that, and not everybody's able to be mashpia that to the world. But she, yeah. And that's the Lashon, Chayin Elohim. Therefore it's written in all the Medrashi, Chazal, and everything, these 127 years, all indicate all sorts of different madrigas, and also even in the Medrashim and even the simple pshat. And even Rashi brings, that indicates certain great milas about her, that she had a very special. Because after she came up from Mitzrayim, she was Zeicha that the whole pipeline of her life force became Begalui in Revelation. It became Chayin Elohim. That means elevated spiritual Chayas Begoli. Umesayim, and the Zoya finishes off by saying, Valdo Dilo Havu Chayin. And he said, because of that, Aldo means, and in reference to that, or because of that, Havu Dilo Havu Chayin. All this life that she had was hers. Dilo means that she had a very personal but very profound possession of her own life force. So that's a big hit. And later the Rebbe is going to say that with that, the Zohar Kodesh is trying to answer the question we asked at the beginning. We asked a question, why did he double up? He said how many, and then he said Shnei Hayei Sara. So the Zohar is hinting that apart from the fact that her Chayes went up into a very high divine level, in addition to all that, it became essentially hers. Now, ask yourself the question, what do we mean with that? What do you mean it became essentially her? Your Chayes is essentially yours. If it's not yours, then what is it? We need to understand what does the Zohar add with those words. The Chayes was hers, and that in some way answers the original question that we started with. We need to understand Mahu Inyan Tahava is Dagbas Bechivya. The Chava, is Dagbas Bechivya. We need to understand what is the Inyan that Chava came into the world, but she became Davuk, how do you call it, connected intimately with the Nochal. V'noyach, and he, v'yesh min ha'yayin, chulu, but unfortunately, chulu means etc. We don't want to repeat it. He became drunk. He didn't make it, as it were. The Sara, Noxus Besalokos, or the Sara came down into the world, or she went down into Mitzrayim, to put it more exactly. She went down and she came up, she elevated up, or begin kach, zochtu lechayin Elohim. She was zeicha to these Chayin Elohim. Uma Messiahim Oid Dilo Hovu Chayin. And we need to understand what does he add by this expression that the Chayin became hers. Yeah, Dilo. What is that telling me? What is the secret to that? Yeah, v'haloi kvar nerma, kvar omash is Dr. L'chayin Elohim. As if she was Zeicha to Chayin Elohim, then l'chayr it's hers. Yeah. And so what does he add further? Yeah, with the whole statement, Dilo, and that is hindered by the phrase, Shnei Hayei Sara at the end. Other part. So that's the lead-in to the Maimah, and it's well known from our Rabbi that kashas that you ask at the beginning of a Maimah are not because we want to show sharpness in asking kashas, and we want to come with different levels of the Zoya or other, but we ask these questions because that question opens a door, and through that question and opening of a door, we're going to be able to get into all sorts of inyonim. In other words, that the kashas are not, how do you call it, sharp usage of analytical seichel, but they are a doorway to lead us to all sorts of profound inyonim. So that's the kashas. So now we're going to go on to page Chet. I'm sorry, even page study. We're going to go over to page study, and about 2/3 of the way down the page. But I just want to make a brief introductory remark before we begin this passage, and that is that the hierarchy of a person's koiches hanefesh has got different ways that we reckon it, or that we put it into categories in Chasiduss. Yeah, we have what's called the Eser koiches of the nefesh, and they are Chokhmah, Bina, V'das, and the Sheva Midas, like it's brought down in Tanya in Perek Gimel. But those are the 10 koiches, Chokhmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Yud, and they are parallel to the 10 spheres in Olam HaAtzilut, and they are the main revealed koiches of the nefesh, and they are united, the Tachlis HaYirud with it. And then we have what's called Gimel Levushim. We have Machshova, Dibur, Umayzeh. And in Perek Daled, the 4th Perek in Tanya, he explains that these are more outward things. These are more chitzoniistic Sachen, but nonetheless they have very high significance and very high power. Am I with people, or people finding this?
No, that's good.
So that's the levushim of Machshova, Dibur, Umayzeh. So they are garments. They are not the 10 powers of the soul. They are not united, but they are very important. And Davki, through them, we're able to make, first of all, to bring the deeper things of the 10 powers into our own recognition. That's Machshova. But that's very panemius. And then Dibur is the koyah that Hashem gave us to bring out to Chitzonius or Elam, and to those who are listening to us, what we had in Machshova. That comes out in Dibur. And then Maisa is a separate lavush, a very, separate lavush in the things of this world, that we're able to actually make situations in the world through our own actions, our own activity. That's called a levush chitzon yoter, or that's called koyach hamaisa, or levush hamaisa. Now, apart from that, going further down, you have what's called 5 chushim. You have what we might call senses. You have sight, for example. You're able to see. Your eyes are able to look at something and see exactly how it is in the physical world and form a very close connection with it. But that's it's not a spiritual expression, it's more like a physical aspect that we have that creates and becomes like a vessel for something spiritual. Yeah, and the same with smell. Yeah, smell is a very powerful thing. The Chasiduss in the Beis Hamikdash is one of the highest things because it's got to do with smell. And smell is a very profound koyach also, but it's called a chush, a sense. It's not a koyach of the nefesh, and it's not a levush. It's a more outward and separate thing. But Dovke, because of that, it's got the ability to grasp a very high thing. And therefore, when you smell something, it has a very profound effect on you. And the spot down in the Arizal says that you must avoid smelling bad things. You know about that. Yeah, if you're walking anywhere and there's a bad smell, you should try and avoid it as much as possible. Because when you take in a bad smell into your chusha, raya, that damages the nefesh. Yeah, it damages the soul. Yeah, because the soul, the Indian of the raya, is a very important and a very powerful thing. Even though it's only a chitzonius, it's not a spiritual expression per se, but it is a very profound. And the same with the mouth. Yeah, through the mouth, you have the ability to make the shape of the oisias in speech, and ultimately you reach the other person. Like we said, that's the koyach hadibur. So the mouth also it has in itself the union of taste. Yeah, and taste is also a very profound thing. That when you taste something which is pleasing and good, it also has a very adequate life-giving influence. It makes you liberty. You know? If you taste something that's really good, it lives you and gives you a certain zest. Yeah. And so it is with touch. You know, touch is also a chush. Yeah, when you touch certain things, it also causes a very profound reaction in the person. So we see that these chushim, these inyonim, which are only very chitonias, and they are called senses, they're not actual koikas or even garments of the soul, they are very profound activities. And therefore, when you see something, you become very bound up to it and you become very convinced. And if somebody will ask you a kasha about that thing, you say, but I saw it with my eyes, I'm sorry, you know. I saw it. You become completely involved in that matter with a conviction that is ironclad. You know, it's really very, very powerful conviction. And the same it is with the other chushim. You'll say, but I myself heard this, you know. And we see that when you hear something and it goes in, also creates on you a very profound influence. In some ways different than if you see it, but sometimes not less powerful. It depends under what circumstances. A shmiya can also have a tremendous. And therefore it's brought down, you have to be very careful. Not to listen to what you're not supposed to listen to. And how much more so, you have to be very careful not to see what is better that you shouldn't see. And that's the end of what's called in the Gemara, shmiras einayim. You know, you have to guard them a lot, because whatever they see has a very profound effect on the man. And so it is with all the chushim, all of them. That's like that. So Kaviyocho, Hashem also has chushim. Yeah. Hashem, it's written that Hashem sees, yeah. He saw this and this. And it's written that Hashem heard this and this. Yeah. So that means to say on a very elevated level that if Hashem is written as having seen something, that he created a very profound divine influence through that so-called seeing. And therefore, that has a tremendous effect on all the people that he saw, or the one person that he saw, and it has a tremendous effect on